the story of Samson, the strongest man in the Bible. In the book of Judges, we read of a young couple who are visited by the angel of the Lord. And he says to them, "You are going to have a son, and he will be a Nazarite," meaning dedicated to the Lord. The Nazarites were an ancient Israelite sect of people who lived by very strict vows. One of those vows was that they couldn't drink alcohol. Another one was that they couldn't eat any unclean food. The last vow, which was the most important, was that they could not cut their hair. Now, when you look at the symbolism of the act of cutting the hair is a symbol of glory. And so to cut one's hair would be to take away one's divinity, one's strength, one's power. And so the boy Samson grew up into a young man and became very interested in a young woman. It says, he went down to Timnah and saw a woman in Timnah of the daughters of the Philistines. So he went up and told his father and mother, saying, "I've seen a woman in Timnah of the daughters of the Philistines. Now, therefore, get her for me as a wife." Then his father and mother said to him, "Is there no woman among the daughters of your brethren, or among all my people, that you must go and get a wife from the uncircumcised Philistines?" These were the enemies of the Israelites. And Samson said to his father, "Get her for me, for she pleases me well." But his father and mother did not know that it was of the Lord, that he was seeking an occasion to move against the Philistines. For at that time, the Philistines had dominion over Israel. So Samson went down to Timnah with his father and mother, and came to the vineyards of Timnah. Now to his surprise, a young lion came roaring against him. And the Spirit of the Lord came mightily upon him, and he tore the lion apart, as one would have torn apart a young goat, though he had nothing in his hand. But he did not tell his father or his mother what he had done. Then he went down and talked with the woman, and she pleased Samson well. This is all foreshadowing. After some time, when he returned to get her, he turned aside to see the carcass of the lion. And behold, a swarm of bees and honey were in the carcass of the lion. He took some of it in his hands and went along eating. When he came to his father and mother, he gave some to them, and they also ate. But he did not tell them that he had taken the honey out of the carcass of the lion. Now, what we've got here is the prediction of Samson's death. It's already being foreshadowed here early in the story. When you retain your seed, your God essence, you become like a lion, the very symbol of strength and power. But when you indulge in that sweet release, you become a carcass. You become empty. You become drained of all of your virility, all of your power. We read on. Now Samson went to Gaza and saw a harlot there and went into her. When the Gazites were told, "Samson has come here," they surrounded the place and lay in wait for him all night at the gate of the city. They were quiet all night, saying, "In the morning, when it's daylight, we will kill him." And Samson lay low till midnight. Then he arose at midnight, took hold of the doors of the gate of the city and the two gateposts, pulled them up, bar and all, put them on his shoulders, and carried them to the top of the hill that faces Hebron. We've got some symbolism of Christ, who puts the two posts on his shoulder and carries them to the top of the hill. The top of the hill. Afterward it happened that he loved a woman in the valley of Sorek, whose name was Delilah. Now we've got more symbolism here with the name Delilah, which is Luna, of the moon, the feminine essence, the feminine pole. Samson is of the solar, the sun, the two poles of the magnet. And the lords of the Philistines came up to her and said to her, "Entice him and find out where his great strength lies, and by what means we may overpower him." You can think of these Philistines as the demonic forces that are trying to bring you down on this journey. That we may bind him to afflict him, and every one of us will give you 1,100 pieces of silver. So Delilah said to Samson, "Please tell me where your great strength lies, and with what you may be bound to afflict you." Charming woman. And Samson said to her, "If they bind me with 7 fresh bowstrings, not yet dried, then I shall become weak and be like any other man." So the lords of the Philistines brought up to her 7 fresh bowstrings, not yet dried, and she bound him with them. Now men were lying in wait, staying with her in the room. And she said to him, "The Philistines are upon you, Samson." But he broke the bowstrings as a strand of yarn breaks when it touches fire. So the secret of his strength was not known. Then Delilah said to Samson, "Look, you have mocked me and told me lies. Now please tell me what you may be bound with." So he said to her, "If they bind me securely with new ropes that have never been used, then I shall become weak and be like any other man." Therefore Delilah took new ropes and bound him with them and said to him, "The Philistines are upon you, Samson." And men were lying in wait, staying in the room. But he broke them off his arms like a thread. Delilah said to Samson, "Until now you have mocked me and told me lies. Tell me what you may be bound with." And he said to her, "If you weave the 7 locks of my head into the web of the loom." There are 7 serpents of Kundalini. 7 serpents that must rise to attain full awakening. And the last serpent to rise, the 7th, is the one which unites us with the Father. So she wove it tightly with the batten of the loom and said to him, "The Philistines are upon you, Samson." But he awoke from his sleep and pulled out the batten and the web from the loom. Then she said to him, "How can you say I love you when your heart is not with me? You have mocked me these 3 times and have told me not where your great strength lies." And it came to pass, when she pestered him daily with her words and pressed him so that his soul was vexed to death, that he told her all his heart and said to her, "No razor has ever come upon my head, for I have been a Nazirite to God from my mother's womb. If I am shaven, then my strength will leave me, and I shall become weak and be like any other man." When Delilah saw that he had told her all his heart, she sent and called for the lords of the Philistines, saying, "Come up once more, for he has told me all his heart." So the lords of the Philistines came up to her and brought the money in their hand, more symbols of the coming Christ, betrayal by Judas, the 30 pieces of silver. Then she lulled him to sleep on her knees and called for a man and had him shave off the 7 locks of his head. The 7 serpents are contained in your seed. Then she began to torment him, and his strength left him. And she said, "The Philistines are upon you, Samson." So he awoke from his sleep and said, "I will go out as before, at other times, and shake myself free. But he did not know that the Lord had departed from him. Then the Philistines took him and put out his eyes. You lose your vision. And brought him down to Gaza. They bound him with bronze fetters. Another reference to the bronze serpent. And he became a grinder in the prison. However, the hair of his head began to grow again after it had been shaven. Now the lords of the Philistines gathered together to offer a great sacrifice to Dagon, their god, and to rejoice. And they said, "Our God has delivered into our hands Samson, our enemy." When the people saw him, they praised their God, for they said, "Our God has delivered into our hands our enemy, the destroyer of our land, and the one who multiplied our dead." So it happened when their hearts were merry that they said, "Call for Samson, that he may perform for us." So they called for Samson from the prison, and he performed for them. And they stationed him between the pillars. Then Samson said to the lad who held him by the hand, "Let me feel the pillars which support the temple." Whenever we see temple, this is another symbol for the body or the soul, so that I can lean on them. Now the temple was full of men and women. All the lords of the Philistines were there, about 3,000 men and women on the roof, watching while Samson performed. Then Samson called to the Lord, saying, "O Lord God, remember me, I pray. Strengthen me, I pray. Just this once, O God, that I may with one blow take vengeance on the Philistines for my 2 eyes." And Samson took hold of the 2 middle pillars which supported the temple, and he braced himself against them, one on his right and the other one on his left. Then Samson said, "Let me die with the Philistines." And he pushed with all his might. And the temple fell on the lords and all the people who were in it. So the dead that he killed at his death were more than he had killed in his whole life. And his brothers and all his father's household came down and took him and brought him up and buried him between Zorah and Eshtaol in the tomb of his father Manoah. He had judged Israel 20 years. This is how much power you have within you. And as you become more powerful, you're becoming more of a threat. You're going to notice that people will find you intimidating. You're going to notice that people even begin to manifest these demonic entities in your presence. On the astral plane, you're aura is becoming brighter and brighter, to the point where when you walk into a room, it's going to be like a fiery sun has just entered the room. And anything that is of the darkness is going to be very upset by that. And so you're going to see an escalation of not only your own demons coming up, but also temptresses, harlots, Jezebels, women who have no real interest in you, but have a dark interest in your power. If not taking it for themselves, then simply seeing if they can take it from you. These spiritual forces are very real and very powerful. So learn from Samson.